Hi, my name is Ali and I'm from Sydney. My first experience with perinatal illness was actually when I had it myself. My son was quite young, he's now 11, and it was something that I never thought would happen to me. I thought that I would be the perfect mum, whatever that is. I had a lot of experience with babies, with children my whole life, but when I had my son, things weren't as I thought they would be. I was happy to have him and I loved him, and it was great, but it was also really hard. And I really struggled when he was a baby. I needed to be hospitalised for postnatal depression because I was suffering from anxiety and I was feeling really down, I was feeling teary, and I wasn't coping with being a mum as much as I thought I should have been. Prior to me going into hospital, I had a lot of episodes of anxiety where I didn't want to leave the house. When I did leave the house, I struggled with being out in shopping centres, for example. My son would cry, as babies do. I would get really anxious about it, and more often than not I just would take him home and feel much more secure there, because I didn't want people to hear my son crying and I didn't want them to see me not coping or bursting into tears out in public. So I actually became quite trapped in my own home, not wanting to leave it. When I went into hospital, I guess the most important thing I felt there was that I had a level of support around me. I had people that understood and knew what I was going through, and taught me skills to cope with what I was feeling. I first started knowing I needed help when I was feeling sad. And I guess it's not something that just happens overnight. You don't just wake up and one day you're sad. You start to feel it more and more often. I started feeling really tired, even though babies are very demanding. You don't sleep much, you're up through the night. But I felt like that I just wasn't coping, and things really came to a head when I felt like I could hurt my son. He would cry and not go to sleep. I'd be patting him, and then the patting became firmer and firmer, and to the point where I'd have to walk away and think, I'm going to do something to him. And it even got worse than that when I started imagining myself throwing him against a wall because he wouldn't shut up. And I got angry and frustrated, and it felt like I was screaming and no one would hear me. And I remember going to my early childhood clinic many times, asking for what I thought was asking for help, but perhaps I had the mask on a bit too much and they couldn't see through that. I don't know that I definitely made the appointments in the afternoon, because if I'd have made them in the morning, they would have seen what I was really going through. By the afternoon, I felt as if I could get myself together, put some makeup on, get dressed, put on a happy face, walk in, and that's what they saw. So to be fair, I probably didn't give them the full picture. When I had postnatal depression, I felt my life was impaired in so many ways. I felt that the illness was paralysing. My husband wanted to be supportive. He wanted to help me. He wanted to be there for me, and he wanted to do all the right things, to his credit. Did he know what to do? No. Did he make mistakes all the time? Yep, all the time. He'd say the wrong thing. Our child would cry and he'd just say, feed him. He didn't know what to do, and I guess most fathers probably feel that. But had he have had some better tools and been able to support me in a better way and know that I needed a break from time to time, and not just say, you know, it'll be all right. If he'd have known to take me to the doctors earlier and get me some support, it would have made a massive difference. As it was, because he didn't know and he didn't recognise the signs, my son was 10 months old before I actually got help, and it had reached a critical point. And if I'd have got help and he'd have known earlier, things could have been so much better for me, for our son, for him. And as a consequence of him trying to support me through something he didn't understand, he ended up with depression himself. which I believe is quite common, he didn't understand what was happening to him either, and he hadn't been given a heads up that that could happen. So he was actually quite struggling with it as well. I started a business earlier in the year called Auntie Ali, and it came about because, for a number of reasons, I have a lot of experience through life of good stuff and bad stuff, and I feel I really understand what a lot of mums and families need after having babies and young children, and it also came about because of my own mental health, which continues as depression and anxiety. And I feel like it would be a waste if I didn't use that to help other people. And Auntie Ali is about an auntie figure going into people's homes and supporting them and encouraging them to be the best parent that they can be, to connect them to services that they don't know about, that I didn't know about, and kind of make it so much easier, and easier than I had it, because there's stuff out there and there's people that can help you and you don't know about them and you're not in a position to look for them. So every session starts with a big warm hug, and I keep in contact with these people, and it's just about supporting in whatever way they need. When I reflect on perinatal mental illness, I think it's really important to not keep going over what you missed out on. And that's a really big thing for me, that I felt I missed out on a lot of things with my son because of it, because I was held back, because I couldn't fully engage with him at times. And that makes me really sad. But I also have to think, well, I did my best. I did what I could do with what I had at the time, and that I need to just move on from that, because if I feel guilty and hold on to that forever, well then I'm not really appreciating the things that I did have and the things that I did enjoy, and I need to stop being so hard on myself about it. It was just the way it was.